utility trucks, title issues, contract delays, well, then you know exactly what I mean. So let's get to the first question that I was asked to address. What asset managers and HUD contractors expect from REO brokers? Because a lot of brokers assume that it's just about experience or personality, and it's not. It's about whether you can execute consistently under pressure and inside of a regulated environment. In the game of life, you spin the wheel and you land on payday and you get paid. Well, because the card says you do. But in the real world, it's not quite that easy. You don't get paid until the property sells, and we don't get paid until the property sells. And HUD doesn't achieve their mission, well, until the property sells. Every delay, every mistake, every incomplete report, every sloppy BPO pushes payday further away. So here's how we evaluate our brokers. There are four pillars: the performance metrics, communication standards, timeline adherence, and compliance requirements. These aren't suggestions and they're not preferences. They are the standard for success as a Raine broker. And what separates top REO brokers from everyone else is not the one deal that was sold in 15 days at 105% of the list price. It's consistency across all four pillars. So let's talk about performance because days on market matter. Price achievement matters, and contracts to close success, of course, matters. But communication is just as critical. We expect to receive responses and for you to give responses to buyers within 24 hours. We expect weekly notes being reported in Yardi or RAMP, and we expect proactive updates when market conditions shift or issues arise. We, of course, expect proficiency in all platforms, including RAMP and Yardi. RAMP being Raine's asset management platform and Yardi being HUD system. Then there's timeline adherences. Initial inspections must be completed within 24 hours and BPOs within 48. We're looking for the complete full cycle from assignment to closing to occur within 90 days. And people roll their eyes at compliance, but in the HUD world, compliance simply isn't a nicety. Owner occupancy periods and rules matter. Disclosures matter, and documentation, well, it matters. To say it bluntly, because it's important, you are not paid for your effort as an REO agent. You are paid for your execution. And in REO, execution means reduced time on market, maximizing your seller's proceeds, predictable, clean processes, and compliance. You don't win the game by being busy. You win by producing outcomes. So if you take nothing else from this today, take this. The real product is performance, speed, proceeds, precision. That's what we're looking for, and that's what HUD expects us to provide. If you can deliver those three things consistently, you will rise to the top. So, how do brokers stand out? Operational excellence, technology proficiency, strong networks. When we see agents on both sides of the deal, we know they get it. They understand the process. We look for proactive problem solving, contractor relationships, HOA resolution skills, and on occasion, eviction experience. And here's a big one: tell us the truth and tell it fast. We won't kill the messenger. The truth doesn't reflect poorly on you, but we don't like surprises. So, the second question I was asked to address is compliance, quality controls, and what mistakes brokers cost brokers future work and how to stay compliant. And so, this is where the game gets serious because you can be a great marketer and you can be a great negotiator, but if your files are messy and your documentation is weak, you create an audit risk and you'll likely be replaced. Compliance is not paperwork, it's guardrails. It keeps everything from going off the cliff. In REO, compliance protects your assignments. It protects your reputation and ours, well, and HUD's. So if you want to stay in the business long term, you need to treat compliance as a part of your brand. What are the most costly mistakes we see? Not reporting HOAs accurately. We not only need to know that there is an association on the property, but we need to know how to contact the right person for that association. The same is true for taxes. We know every property has taxes, but what type? In the Northeast, we have townships and school taxes. In the Southeast, it's primarily county taxes, with a few little cities sprinkled in. We really need your assistance in helping us to gather that information correctly. And then, of course, there are HUD violations. I can't say it enough, but people don't seem to believe that HUD is serious about their owner occupancy bidding periods. But they have pursued and received several indictments against investors bidding during the owner occupancy period. Make sure you're aware of those restrictions. It's also worth mentioning at this point that listing brokers, their families, as well as their agents are not permitted to purchase HUD properties. So if you're a broker, make sure your agents understand and know this rule. If you're an agent that's working underneath a broker, make sure your broker understands this before you're pursuing listings from HUD. So how do you prevent those mistakes? You create a self-audit system. Take good inspection photos and know your market. What type of buyer will this property attract? An owner-occupant or an investor? In the current conditions, what will it sell for? Ensure we know how to contact the taxing authority in any association. And even better, if you could pull that last bill or invoice for us, that would be great. The best brokers, well, they know their property. Weekly, you should be making notes on the property. What's positive about the property? What's hindering bids? Provide us the feedback that you're receiving. Make sure your routine inspections are completed bi-monthly. Once you're under contract, everything becomes super time sensitive. Earnest money needs to be collected and delivered to the BSCA timely. Make sure you're always documenting, because the first question we're going to ask is, was that documented? Quality control is not just a checklist, it's a culture. When mistakes happen, and they will, acknowledge them quickly, notify immediately, and propose corrective action. Create daily habits. Review your deadlines. Ensure same-day responses. Make sure you're documenting in real time. And of course, technology helps. I wanted to give you something simple that you can remember, which is the 3 C's that should carry you through life: competence, commitment, and compatibility. Professionalism and compatibility matter so much more than people actually realize, because you can be competent, but if you're difficult to work with, you might not be our first call. We are a company, but we're still made of people. And the manager working in your area knows who they can count on to step in and get a job done and who they can't. This is a relationship business, but it's a relationship that's built on reliability. Moving on along to the third question: building efficient, repeatable REO systems. And this is where great brokers can separate themselves from overwhelmed brokers. Because REO is not a one property business. If you want to succeed, you have to build a portfolio ready operation. In the game of life, you land on a space that says action and you have to do it. But in REO, you actually have a choice. And I'm going to give you a little advice here that will save your business. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Protect your brand, protect your timelines, and protect your files. Because if you take on volume and assets that you can't manage, your quality will drop and your assignments will disappear. Systems beat hustle every day of the week. You can manage your REO assets with Excel, with HubSpot, with Salesforce, with Monday.com, with Zoho. I don't really care what you use, but you need a system that can track your deadlines, your documents, your vendors, your reporting, your inspections, and your closing requirements. REO is not a hustle game, it's an operations game. Every property requires multiple tasks from assignment to closing. Manual processes create errors. Errors create missed deadlines. Missed deadlines create distrust. And burnout creates quality degradation. So the solution is not to try. The solution is systems. There are 5 core systems every broker needs: onboarding and BPO, listing activation and marketing, vendor management, reporting and communications, and transaction management and closing. If you build these 5 systems, you can scale your REO without your life falling apart. System 1 is onboarding and BPO. Day 1, your inspection should be completed, your photo checklist should be in place, and occupancy should be verified. On day 2, you should have your BPO completed. System 2 is have a pre-formatted listing template. That way you can ensure that any unique MLS information is complete and accurate. And go ahead and schedule your social media. System 3, vendor management. Ensure that taxes are current and that's in the status of the HOA. Are there any community-specific violations that have been issued? Is the property in ready to show condition? Has the grass been cut? Property maintained? The snow shoveled? System 4 is reporting and communicating. Tell us about your marketing efforts. Where have you been showcasing the property? Is the property showing? Brag on yourself. Tell us what's happening with the property, at least weekly. This is how you become a broker that the asset manager doesn't have to babysit. And system 5 is transaction management and closing. You should have a contract to close checklist. You must collect your earnest money and make sure it's delivered to the BSCA timely. You also need to remember that many selling agents have never sold a HUD property. They don't understand the process, so reach out and help them through the contract process. You should also be assuring that the BSCA understands the timelines and have a closing coordination timeline checklist. So let's talk about structure. You need to organize your files at a property level folder. We use a cloud-based system, but local servers are fine. Just make sure you have your information backed up. If you want to scale, you're going to have to delegate. So I'm not telling you that you need to go out and hire new people today, but as you create systems, think about the roles that you're going to be training for. A transaction coordinator that's handling contract to closing, or maybe a marketing coordinator that's handling your listings, admin support that handles your reporting and any other coordination. But I can tell you this, if you're doing it all yourself, you're not building a business. You're likely building yourself a burnout plan. Technology is just not optional anymore, and you need to be proficient in the platforms that you use. In our case, that's Ramp and Yardi. You need transaction and project management tools. Automation, that's where you can potentially get your life back. Email templates, showing feedback, consolidation, and social media scheduling. I want you to remember this. Do not wait for the asset manager to track you down. Track it yourself. And moving on to the 4th question, using data to improve REO performance and profitability. And this is where brokers become irreplaceable for us, because brokers who speak in data are brokers who earn trust. In the game of life, you don't win because you're smart. You win because you landed on the right square. But in the real game of life, in the game of REO, data matters. That is how you reduce your time on market and how you maximize proceeds for your seller. Data is how you prevent mistakes. Data is how you prove your value. So here's the question. Do you have a dashboard? Not a vague idea of how you're doing, but a real dashboard. Do you track your sales price to BPO, communication response time, days on the market, timely inspections? We do. If you can't measure it, you can't improve it. And if you can't improve it, then you aren't bringing us your weight in gold. Days on market is one of the biggest metrics in REO. Track it by property type, price range, neighborhood. A strong days on market is 15 to 30 days. Acceptable is 30 to 45. Beyond 45 days on market, we need to understand why. Price achievement also matters. Looking at listed BPO percentages, and look, we understand. We get your frustration. You do this beautiful BPO telling us about what the price point's going to be on this property, and then we still list it for the appraised value. But please understand that those beautiful BPOs make a huge difference when we have to go to our client, HUD, and explain our agent did their job. HUD, it's you. It's your requirements that are the problem, not what our agent is doing to market this property. So keep doing those great BPOs because they actually help more than you know. Here are 3 conversion metrics that we also look at: showing to bids, bids to contract, contract to close. If you're getting showings but no bids, we need to know why. Is it the condition of the property? If we're getting bids but none are acceptable, well, why? Is the buyer quality in the market? If we're getting contracts but we're not getting the closing, then help us understand what the problem is. And let's talk about money. Maximizing proceeds is the key to the game. Sales price is not the net. Understand that net to HUD is the sales price minus the closing costs less the commission. And that's your key. HUD will continue to pay up to 3% commission for selling brokers. And we recognize that you aren't running a charity. We aren't either. So you should be tracking your commission by the hour, your cost to service the property. What's your profit margin on each property? Because like I've said before, if you don't track it, you can't scale it. Operational performance matters because it predicts whether the file is going to go off the rails. Track your on-time completion rates for inspections, BPOs, and listings, and we expect 100%. I know that might sound unreasonable, but I'm just telling you up front that that is our expectation. We're not totally unreasonable. We understand that Mother Nature on occasion doesn't work out in our favor, and there are uncontrollable events that occur, but they must be thoroughly documented. A late inspection without an acceptable explanation is the quickest way for you to find yourself off our roster. Marketing is not simply putting the property in MLS. You need to track your views by channel. You need to be tracking your showings. You need to be tracking open house attendances and also understand feedback themes that you're receiving from the market. And here's what separates serious REO brokers in their portfolio management. Monthly dashboards should show total assignments, your days on market, your properties under contract, projected closings, net to seller, compliance score, and on-time performance. And color code it. Are you green, yellow, or red? Because you can't manage 20 properties the same way that you manage 2. Look at your lead indicators. Do you have declining showings within the first 15 days? Are you increasing on your days on market? Is there feedback coming back about price more often now? These are the trends. Don't wait to intervene. This is what's going to protect our time on the market and protect the seller. Data also changes the way that you communicate with us. So instead of saying, I think the market is slow, you say, our average days on market is now 68 versus 52. Instead of saying, we're doing good, you're saying, We achieved 97% of the BPO value on our last 5 closings. This is how you become a trusted professional instead of just a vendor. And another tip that I will add is don't tell me how poorly another broker is doing in your area. And sending emails to remind me of how many listings you've had or, well, haven't had in the last year, it's also unlikely to garner a positive response. Excuse me. Those of you who have known me or seen me speak before, you know I'm a straight shooter. So I'll also add those agents that are trying to be everywhere and nowhere, if we don't catch you, there will be an agent in your area that will and will report you. I promise they will. And if you've been banned in one of our areas, it's likely you will quickly be banned in our other areas. So remember the slide that said, don't bite off more than you can chew. Okay. I do want to drill this in. A BPO is not simply comps. It's a market forecast. We have an appraiser that's going to tell us what properties have already sold for in the area. What I want to know is how the market is doing today, not yesterday. And I want to know who's likely to buy the property. Is there really an owner occupant that's going to purchase the property with $7,000 in repair? Maybe so. But if not, I want to know that. And I want it to be included on your BPO. It's your professional prediction of what the property will sell for in its current condition with the current buyer pool in the current market. If your BPO is consistently off, then everything else is going to fail. Time on the market, net to HUD, and your credibility as an expert in the area. You need to know your buyer pool. Is the property insurable with escrow, or uninsurable? Because that's going to determine the financing options, the buyer audience, and thus the speed of absorption. Remember that if the property is insurable, it has to be listed for 15 days before investors can bid, whereas uninsurable, investors can bid after 10 days. So one of the first questions that you always need to be asking yourself is, can this property realistically be sold to an owner occupant? If not, why not? And indicate that on your BPO. This slide is simple, but it's potentially one of the most important in the deck. Notes, notes, notes. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. And I can't tell HUD, I know that our agent's doing what they can if you don't tell me what you're doing. And the final question, and then we're going to have some Q&A, is how do you become a trusted partner? Because this is the difference between brokers who get 1 and 2 assignments and brokers who actually build an REO business. Trusted partners don't just follow instructions, they create solutions. In the game of life, sometimes you land on a space that says you win a contest. That'd be great if real life worked that way. But in real life, REO is still a relationship business. Just relationship that's built through consistent performance, not the hi, hello, how you doing? I just met you in the grocery store kind of way. The way you win the contest is not to network harder, but being a broker that makes the asset manager's job easier. Here's the mindset shift. Vendors react, partners anticipate. Vendors focus on task, partners focus on outcomes. Vendors communicate when there is a problem, partners communicate with insight. And partners align their success with HUD success, reducing time on market and maximizing net recovery. That's the mindset of a top broker. To become a trusted partner, you have to understand the world that your asset manager lives in. We're managing over 1,000 properties at any given time, and we're being scrutinized on the net recovery and timelines. We're dealing with audits and compliance. We don't have time for hand-holding. It doesn't mean we don't want you to ask questions. It means stop, problem solve, and if you still can't find the solution, then reach out to your project manager. Proactive communication is not sending more emails. It's sending better ones. Don't just report what happened. Provide contacts and recommendations. Anticipate the question before it's asked. Include comps and photos and quotes and documentation. Make it easy to approve your recommendation. If I know nothing about Greenwood, Mississippi, and you know that the property needs a price reduction to garner interest, paint me the picture. This is in a rural area over 100 miles from an urban hub. The city has lost its major industries, so residents are leaving to find work and unemployment remains high in the area. An owner-occupant is unlikely to purchase and rents are depressed given the unemployment. This property's rental income should be approximately X, and the investors in the area would likely pay Y for the property. I think this property should sell for Z if its price was reduced to Y. That allows me to go tell a story to HUD on what we should do with the purchase price. So how do you add strategic value? Share with us neighborhood trends, crime changes, school changes, development activity, competing REO inventory, seasonal patterns, major industries, unemployment. This is not extra. This is how we're able to make smarter decisions across multiple assets and not just one. Brokers who bring us marketing intelligence are the brokers that earn our trust. The best brokers don't panic when a file gets hard. They become more valuable. If you can sell a difficult property, then I know you can sell an easy one. We don't expect you to become title experts, but it's helpful if you know one in your area. We walked through the 3 C's earlier: competence, commitment, and compatibility. And there's a similar 3 C's to building trust. Again, competence, but consistency and character. Trust is not built through one good deal. It's built through consistency. And your character is everything in this industry. If you cut corners, blame vendors, exaggerate values, hide problems, and disappear when a file gets difficult, you're not going to last. Here's what the top brokers do. They have touch points even outside their active transactions. They ask for feedback, not feedback as a touch point, but feedback that they're actually going to implement in their processes. And loyalty matters too. Prioritizing our assignments during busy periods, speaking positively. People simply don't enjoy listening to negative Nelly. Asset managers aren't just assigning files, they're assigning trust. And trust goes to brokers who don't treat REO like it's their side hustle. And when things go wrong, and like I said, they will, here's the framework for difficult conversations. State the facts clearly, explain the impact, present your recommendation, outline next steps, and take responsibility for your role. That's how true professionals communicate: clear, direct, and solution-based. Most agents provide good enough service, but we're looking for exceptional service. We're looking for that storyteller, those agents that acknowledge the reality of the property, but see the potential and clearly communicate both. We as an asset manager need that reality, but we need buyers to feel the potential. It's not just another house. It could be their home with a little bit of extra love here and a little bit of extra spruce there. Ensure that you're upping your technology game. And finally, protect your business. You can't rely on one asset manager to feed you. You should have multiple sources of business and maintain consistent standards across all of those relationships, because every file matters and every reputation spreads fast in this industry. And so this is where I close. The board will change, the rules will change and the market will change. But your discipline should not change. If you build systems, track your metrics, communicate like a professional, and protect compliance, you will survive in every market cycle. And that's how you win the game of REO. Not by spinning harder, not by chasing volume, not by being the loudest broker in the room. You win by being disciplined, being predictable, and reducing time on market, maximizing net proceeds cleanly, professionally, and consistently. Because in REO, performance is the product. So I thank you, and I'm going to turn it back over to Annie.
Thank you so much, Machelle, for that very informative presentation. We do have several questions from our REOX network. Our first question is from a member, Sam Hantosh, and he's asking, has Raine Asset Management decided when their summit is going to be in 2026?
Hi, Sam. So I hate to inform everyone, but Raine is not going to have a summit in 2026. We decided to take a year off and make sure that we're getting all of our processes and systems in place. But we are looking at doing a summit in 2027. And so we will definitely be sending out a save date on that.
Okay, great. That makes sense. We have our next question from Paul Snyder, who is part of our network as well, asking, I would love to be set up as a Raine agent. Where do I start?
Kim, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Yes, this is always our favorite question when we're seeing all the real estate agents, but you can go to rainecompany.com and submit your application with us. We are not actively recruiting at this time. However, when we get properties into inventory and we do not have an agent, that is the first place we're going to go to is our database of agents that have submitted their request to become a vendor of ours on our network. So if you could please do that. Right now, we are looking, if there's anyone here, Annie, that is on from Pensacola, Florida, we absolutely are looking for someone that is in that area. We're not really looking for someone who's willing to come across the state of Florida and submit their application. We know everyone is willing to do it, but HUD does have a requirement that we list properties with agents that are located within 30 miles of the asset. So, but if you are located in Pensacola, I honestly could not believe that we did not have a property when we were looking to assign last week, that we didn't have an agent in Pensacola. Like, who would have thought? So if you have anyone, we are looking for someone in that area. But yeah, so we do go to that database. So please feel free to go to rainecompany.com and we'll be happy to look at the application.
Kim, I will send you an email after this call. I believe we have 2 agents who service Pensacola. I just want to confirm that they're within that, you said 30-mile radius?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
30-mile radius. We want them to try to be in Pensacola if at all possible.
Okay.
So, and Nicole or Lizzie, if you guys could put the website address in the chat for everyone so they can have it as well.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with Raine, I should have introduced Kim Shannon as our Director of Operations, and you see Lizzie Smith on as well. She does our marketing. So if you're unhappy about no summit in 2026, you can complain to Lizzie. I'm just kidding. Please do not send me emails to Lizzie. Nicole's not on screen, but Nicole Mitchell was helping us with the last summit that we did in 2025. So we're very excited to have them within our Raine orbit.
That's awesome. Our next question is from one of our advisory council members, Laura Dietz. Are there any upcoming changes to HUD disposition policies for 2026 that agents should prepare for now? And secondary to that, will HUD be modifying timeline for occupancy requirements for owner-occupant buyers? And then she's thanking you so much for being a part of this call.
Hi, Laura.
Yes, Laura's great. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Laura's wonderful. So I'm not familiar with anything that's coming up for 2026, but those that are in the HUD world should know by now that HUD did modify the owner occupancy period. It was changed from 15 days to 30 days during the Biden administration. I don't remember the exact dates. It didn't last for very long, and it was changed back in May of 2025 to 15 days. So it is a 15-day owner occupancy period for any properties that are insurable. Properties that are uninsurable are a 10-day owner occupancy period.
Okay. We have a couple of questions I'm going to combine. So, what can an agent do to stand out to receive an assignment? And are there any performance metrics that you use if you have multiple agents in the same area to choose who you would use over the other?
Kim, do you want to take that one?
Yes. We do look at, we want to make sure that you do the trainings each month. We have training requirements that have to be completed, as well as, we do look at, we try to do our best actually to do round robin as long as everyone is performing. If we have someone that's not performing, then we'll talk with that agent. But we do our very best to just make sure that it goes round robin for the amount of inventory that we have right now.
Okay.
But to stand out is kind of goes back to, I'd like to add a little bit about what Machelle said too, because I think it goes back to what Machelle was saying. Are you, communicating well? Are you being professional? Do we see you selling our properties quickly? Those things do make you stand out to us. We do know our agents that when we pick up the phone and call you and we say, hey, we have this property that just might be right outside your territory. Are you willing to take it for us? Those types of things, and you're willing to go over and beyond a little bit for us, do go a long way. And so we really appreciate those agents that are willing to do that. We do notice some of the agents that participate with things like this and are on our webinars. And, we don't make them mandatory, but we do notice some that the agents are really actively participating and trying to enhance their training and knowledge in the industry. And so we do look at all of that as well.
Thank you.
I mean, I just want to add to that too, because sometimes I think people think are too, oh, I don't want to bother Raine. If you see, 10 assets come in your area and none of them have come to you and somehow they're only going to like the same three agents, by all means, reach out to us and say, hey, I just want to make sure we don't have a problem. I mean, we do use a lot of technology. I think it's very good, but it's not perfect. And maybe we do have, your latitude or longitude off and we need to get it corrected in our system or something like that. So you're not showing up as being within 30 miles of the property. So I don't want to scare agents to not reach out to us, but what I do want to encourage is don't make that email, well, I didn't even receive the one asset like I did last year type emails. Those don't tend to make me want to stop what I'm doing and help you. But if genuinely, we have an issue within our system, we want to get it corrected for you. I mean, we want our good agents getting work. So, please do reach out. Just be professional and respectful about what you're doing. Just remember that we're humans on the other side too, and I think sometimes that gets forgotten.
Yeah, exactly. You get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Okay, and then I actually had a question piggybacking off of Kim, what you were saying. So, if an agent hasn't been accepted into your network yet, since you're not actively recruiting, if they've just filled out the information on your website, are they able to take the Raine hosted training so that when something comes up, they will have, met those credentials as well?
Yeah, we do try to open up our trainings to more agents than just our listing broker panel. We do have some listing broker specific trainings,
Mhm.
but we try to open them up to everyone as much as we possibly can. Not to give away any secrets, but Machelle wants to actually invite everyone to the summit for next year. So we're actually hoping to have agents that are not on our panel come and see what all the talk was about for our summit. So yeah, we try to incorporate as many people as we can, for sure.
That's awesome. Okay. Our next question, let's see, we have, yes, James Harris, we will be sending a copy of this presentation. We've been recording it. We have a few members asking that. And then let's see. So if From Donnie Upton. When you come to VA, so if there's a rural area, do you ever get to break that 30-mile radius when maybe it's not realistic to agents being available? So do you ever go outside of that 30-mile radius?
Yes, we do have to do that sometimes in the remote areas. We'll have to go and we'll have to seek HUD approval, but we do try to find that closest broker to the 30 miles if at all possible. And if not, we do have to go outside to that network. And again, that's where we also would go to that database and say, hey, do we have someone there? But if not, we do have to sometimes, get approval to go outside 30 miles.
Okay. And we have a member asking, so when you mentioned reach out, if there's been 10 listings in someone's area and they've not yet received it and they are a listing agent with you all, what is the best way to get a hold of you? Is that the asset manager that they've worked with in the past or, through your website? What
They
would
can
be?
reach out through their project manager.
Okay. And let's see, we have Jim Brooks asking if you will be at the NADP conference in March. Are you planning to be at that event? Anybody at Raine?
No.
We were not invited, so
Oh,
I
no.
don't think so.
Okay. All right. There's that. And then we do have time for a few more questions, it looks like. Are there any plans to incentivize, I think you might have spoke to this a little bit, but more owner-occupant buyers in certain markets? And has there been a shift in investor activity versus owner-occupant purchases?
We have seen a slight shift in some areas with investors. Really just is area specific. It's not as many as what one would think, but it really month to month it changes. We still do see a high number of owner occupants coming through. And what was the first part of your question, Annie? I'm sorry.
Are there any plans to incentivize more owner-occupant buyers in certain markets?
I wish HUD would go ahead and give out a bonus again like they did many years ago, but no, as of this time, there's no conversation around it.
Okay. And then let's see here. What are the required turnaround times for BPOs, inspections, repair bids, and status updates? That's a long list. But the required turnaround times generally for Raine from an
So
agent.
initial inspections are 24 hours, routines are every 2 weeks. Closing inspections are within 5 days prior to the closing. BPOs within 48 hours. And what was the other one?
And we look for updated BPOs every 30 days.
Yes.
Status updates.
Status
Yes.
updates anytime there's a change, but I would say, weekly. I mean, you can go into right now, it's still Yardi. Go into Yardi and make a note. We had 10 showings this week, and the feedback we received is, there's mold in the house. Well, we need to know that. Or, feedback is, they love it, but it's a high, high price point for this particular area, or, probably you should be receiving a lot of bids on this property. We're getting a lot of, positive feedback. So, just tell us what you're doing. Because it allows us to then go to HUD and say, here's what's going on, you know. So we've had a lot of luck with the agents that are very communicative with us. What doesn't work is you should reduce the price. I mean, that doesn't tell me anything, right? I mean, I'm not going to get my seller to say, okay, but the ones that are very communicative, this is why you need to reduce the price. We found ABCXYZ with the property, and there's a house down the street that has, XYZ in it, and that's what you're competing with. Those we can go to HUD sometimes early and get them to agree to a price reduction if we've got something tangible.
On top of the property condition, I'm sorry, Annie, on top of the property condition, I think it's also good to be able to say, like, what have you been doing? Have you been putting it on Facebook or other social media websites? Or, what actions have you been taking to help sell this property? Because I know when we have to go to HUD and say, we want this price reduction, the first question they ask us is, what is your agent doing to help us market this property and to help you market this property? And so those are some of the things that we would love to be able to see, like, what is preventing this property from selling and what are we doing to sell it? And if we can get those two questions answered, then it's a huge benefit to all of us to be able to help out with get these properties sold and maybe even get that special price reduction from HUD.
Right. So just send that information off the bat. Don't wait to be asked.
Correct.
And we have William Ramos asking along that same answer, where do you make notes on Yardi and in Ramp?
If you're one of our listing agents currently, you'll be able to log into your portal and just add the notes for that case. In Ramp, we would prefer right now you just list them in Yardi. That's the best place. But if you're not one of our listing agents currently and you want us to really know something about that property, feel free to email us, notify us, post it on social media, send us a message through Facebook. Lizzie and Nicole would love to be able to see it and help us out. So if you're not a member of our Facebook page, please join us. They would love to see it.
Okay. I think we can get these last 3 or 4 questions in with the amount of time we have left. We have Eduardo Blanco asking, when delivering HUD related training, what current hot topic compliance or enforcement trends should we be highlighting for buyer agents?
Please, please, please submit your extensions timely. If you believe it's not going to close, let's get those extensions into HUD Home Store to be able to submit those timely. We're kind of seeing too many contracts that go past the deadline, and we're busy at right before the system goes down to try to keep that contract compliant. So if we could really hone in on making sure that properties that cannot close on time get an extension filed. And when there needs to be an extension fee submitted, let's submit it timely so it doesn't come in after contract expiration and we're constantly chasing it. I think the theme is let's be proactive and not reactive. And I think that's really, if we can start really honing in on that in the trainings, then we'll go a long way.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's see. Cisco Gonzalez is asking, are we allowed to market and advertise HUD homes as a buyer's agent?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Simple, yes. And then
I mean, we always
Yeah.
ask that you be respectful to the listing broker. So, probably not a great idea for you to decide to have an open house on Sunday and just show up with, with brownies and milk. So it's always nice to communicate with the listing broker that, you want to market their property or can you sit for an open house or whatever.
okay. And then just to echo, because we have a few members asking when there's an issue with a property, they communicate directly with their project manager and through the Yardi update system, or is there a better place to do that?
Yeah, you already notes if it's something that is urgent, like there was vandalism on the property, of course, be reaching out to your project manager so that they know. But just if you're just giving us updates on, hey, put this out on Facebook Marketplace or, took out a preferred ad in Zillow or whatever the case might be, those can just go in notes in Yardi.
Okay. That sounds great. And then for the training that is open for all agents, just if they sign up through your website, they'll be on your marketing list for those trainings. Is that correct?
I would say be a member of our Facebook group.
Okay. And then is that just Raine Asset Management to search?
RaineCompany.com. Lizzie, the
Lizzie, can
Facebook
you
page?
put the Facebook page in the
Thank you.
chat? Yeah.
And then let's see, our last question. 1 second. Okay. Are there any audit trends agents should be aware of regarding occupancy compliance? I think you've spoke to this some, but any elaboration on that?
As far as audit trends, I mean, no. I will say that that's this kind of could, in theory, be a training on its own. I think the thing that people need to understand is owner occupancy really means owner occupancy. And in an attempt to kind of get around that occupancy is going to, HUD is very sensitive about it right now. And so even if not true, it's going to trigger someone to look at it closer. So I can give you an example. We had a woman who bought a property with her boyfriend. Only the woman was on title, and it doesn't matter. Just in this case, that happened to be the facts scenario. Apparently, the boyfriend and her broke up, and she could no longer afford the house, and so she was moving for another job or something. And she had lived in the house had fixed up the house and lived in the house for, I think, like 5 or 6 months. And so it went back on MLS. And guess what? Agents will tell on you, y'all, if you think you're getting over on something. I'm telling you right now, that is how we get most of our information. And so an agent who had had a client bid on that house the 6 months prior and didn't win the bid reported it to HUD. So, I mean, what's my opinion? I think it was like legitimately, a relationship didn't work out. Boyfriend happened to not be on title, and, lady decided to sell her house. That's my opinion. HUD did not take that opinion. And and HUD said, you have to take this listing down. You cannot sell this house within a year. You are required to live in this house for a year as an owner occupant. That's what your security deed or your trustee deed or whatever deed you use in the state. So they take it very, very seriously. So if an owner occupant thinks like they might be transferred in a year, a HUD home might not be a great option for them if they have a transient type job. People who are going to live in the house, maybe think about, boyfriend maybe needs to be on title in this situation. Maybe the facts, would have lined up differently had that occurred. But I will say, they do monitor it closely.
Okay, that makes sense. That is all the time that we have for questions today. Thank you so much, Machelle, for your informative answers, and Kim as well. If you were left with a Raine Asset Management question unanswered, you can email me. Most of you should have my email. It's Annie, ANNIE, at thereox.com. And I will make sure to get an answer back to you from Raine Asset Management. And Machelle, do you have any last remarks?
I don't. Thank you guys for attending, and we hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you, Machelle, for sharing your expertise with us today. And thank you to everyone for taking the time to join and be a part of this webinar. We hope that you all have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Thank you, Machelle. Bye.
Bye.